The ELTA.
Essential.
Exclusive.
Expensive. Let's find out.
Today we're going to be talking about the upcoming development in Clementi Avenue 1, the ELTA. The ELTA is a condominium development coming up comprising of 2 blocks of 39 stories. It's located in the Clementi Avenue 1 region. It will feature 501 units and it has an expected TOP date of 2029. So Clive, today as we talk about the ELTA, there are a few things we wanted to cover with the audience as well. Number one is to provide everyone an idea about the upcoming ELTA, which is launching on the 7th of February 2025. And also, we want to dive into which of the unit types are suitable for different clients and different profile types. So as part of our ongoing series of new launches and their developments, we typically spin a wheel. That's why we're called the Roulette Realtors. We spin a wheel that will take us through the various profiles and hopefully land on something that the audience can resonate with. And we discuss a little bit about whether the various unit types and whether this development is ideal for buyers in that particular profile.
Let's get the wheel up to the screen.
Yep.
Okay, I've been practicing this offline. Let's try this. Right? Go. Wow.
Investor, we haven't got it in a while.
Yes. Yeah, so I'll kind of just want to start off by understanding a bit about the investor profile. I think typically investors in property, they're looking for 2 big things. One is the rental and the other one is basically the capital gains. As many of our audiences will be familiar, investing in real estate, especially when you're going into a new build, is via progressive payments. So your interest payments is on a very progressive manner. So typically the investor profile will be they're thinking of maybe sell upon the unit attaining temporary occupation permit, which is where the unit is completed. But even at TOP stage, your loan is not fully drawn down. So you are actually not being charged the full interest. So typically the owners of these places would try to sell it for capital appreciation gains.
Yeah, when we talk about the investor profile, like you mentioned, the cash flow portion of it is important. But also when we talk about investors, typically they like to look at a 1-bed unit, potentially a 2-bed unit. So at the ELTA, we have that full range. We have 1 bed all the way going up to the 5 beds units across the 501 available. So if we are just focusing on the investor profile, we might be looking at a 1-bed or 2-bed unit. And talk a little bit about why we think an investor might be looking at the ELTA. What's so good about the ELTA?
So good that Hector mentioned, because I think with the ELTA, we are looking at an area in Clementi that's very highly sought after. Why? Because there's a lot of demand coming from the fact that it's near all the different types of institutions. You have the primary school, you have the secondary school, and you have the universities even in that area. Right? So with Hector, you can see that in the map that we're trying to show so many different schools judging by the graduate heads. But I think more importantly is a well-known fact that projects along that stretch of roads fetch very, very healthy profits. I think the data itself will unveil the level of profits and the level of cap gains that past owners in that areas of condos have experienced. We are talking about Clavon, which just recently TOP in 2024. Even we're talking about older projects like Canopy.
Yeah, so the ELTA is a project that is flanked by both Clavon and Canopy. So those who might be familiar with these 2 projects that are relatively new in the market, with the Clavon achieving TOP last year in 2024, the ELTA is going to be situated right beside it. And the part that I think is impressive from an investment standpoint is, number one, the profits are very much on track. They are very much proven in the area. The buyers at the Clavon have experienced a good appreciation for those who are flipping after that 3 years SSD. So the ELTA is expected to have similar performance, but I think what stands out about the ELTA is that this is going to be a very high-rise condominium, and quite possibly this is going to be one of the last few plots of land available for private development in the Clementi region for quite some time to come. So potentially the pent-up demand heading towards this project is going to be quite intensive. we are expecting a lot of buyers. We ourselves are servicing quite a lot of clients at the moment who are interested to view this development. So focusing on the investor profile, that 1 bed, 2 bed, I think we are starting to understand why investors want to head into this project in the first place.
Can we pull out a bit of the price trend data just to let our audience see a bit of the performance of, maybe we'll pull out the data of Clavon. Okay, so the audience will see a image being pulled up about Clavon. So in the image, you will see that Clavon is selling at some units are selling at 2001 XXPSF, fetching 2002. So I recall when this project was launched in 2020, so right around actually the COVID period, it was quite attractively priced. I think people are getting it at 1005 or 1006 PSF. So we are looking at easily a knockup of about 5 to 600 PSF. So, the audience can do their math. 5 to 600 PSF multiplied by like a 700, easy a 2 beta, 700 plus. We're talking about, a gross profit of close to $400,000.
Yeah, that's pretty good for a 2-bed unit. But
within 4 years.
Even for investors who are looking to rent out, that whole education story, it being in proximity to some of the primary schools around, which might be needed for registration, but also all the way into tertiary education. You're talking about polytechnics, you're talking about a series of universities around, NUS being in the vicinity. I think this is where a lot of the rental demand potentially might come into the ELTA, which is why investors looking at this particular development can be convinced on price point, as well as the strong rental demand arising from the area, especially from educational institutions.
So let's flesh out a bit of the floor plans to see what are the possible unit types that investors can go into. So we usually would suggest that investors look at least a 1 beta or 2 beta. But what's interesting is that the developer has a special name for each of these different betas lah. So that explains why we have the title Essential, Exquisite, or Expensive. Of course, the developer will never say that units are expensive, but we'll come back to the price later. Right. So the 1 beta, it comes with a study. So this is post-pandemic type layout. Executive. All right. So as the name suggests, it's meant for the executive who is entering into a new build project. All right. So this offers a good quantum to enter into, right? So let's see the 2 beta as well, right? So 2 beta is called the Essential, right? So it almost suggests that this should be the essential purchase, right? So 2 bed, 2 bath, Jack and Jill, nothing much to complain, right? I think our viewers are very good at deciphering whether layouts are good or not, right? But going beyond the 1 or 2 betas, right? I think these days investors, they are also seeing that when you invest in a property, it's not just about buying, 2 beta or 1 beta. They're also thinking about the exit audience. So, we are always advising our clients that, the exit audience matters a lot. That means if your exit audience is like families, where there's less competition upon TOP. That's why we're suggesting for investors, sometimes we can help them with some funding strategies for them to even consider a 3 beta. Right? So for Hector, we would like to, at least show a 3 beta, right? Which is called the Elegant 3 beta premium.
So we went up from an executive to an essential 1 bed to 2 bed. Now we're heading into that 3 bed, 4 bed, 5 bed realm. And just for the investors, we're probably going to stop at the 3 bed realm, because that's simply the idea that we're renting out a unit. So for some of the investors who are looking for a slightly sizable unit for young families, the 3 bed, the Elegant 3 bedroom premium is one that I think is a little bit interesting, because we're starting to see the merging of spaces. You would see that this particular floor plan that we're showing on screen features a junior master suite that comes into play on both ends of the unit. So you have 2 bedrooms, the master bedroom, your common bedroom 1, tucked away on the left, and then you have somewhat like a junior master that's tucked away on the right. Ideal for young families with growing children. The part that interests me the most is the transition of the dry kitchen into the wet kitchen and a flexible study area. So this 3 bed with study area is interesting because you can potentially hack away that wall in that flexible space to create a larger storage unit or even a larger dry pantry for your family's needs. So this particular layout features less wastage in terms of having more usable space rather than large corridors and long alleyways. I think this is where the 3-bed premium is kept at a very, very good price point, with sizes ranging from about 1,000 to 1,023 square feet for this particular model.
So now the Hector mentioned, right? So as we was saying that the exit audience, if they're family oriented, you know, they are looking at that study potentially as a helper's room lah. So I was looking at this study. If you want to, you know, make it more multi-purpose, we can actually seal up that wall, right? Then at the same time, that can become the helper's corner, right? So you know that yard toilet serves as a helper's toilet. So just nice the kitchen area is there also. Right. So
and of course, not everything, we have to be very cautious about things as well. Not everything is going to be all rosy and nice. We do understand that for this particular layout, with the optimization of the usable space, we don't necessarily see all models featuring a storeroom or a bomb shelter. So that's one point that we want to point out as part of the floor plans analysis at the ELTA. But just to end off the point for the investor profile, I think ultimately we like the floor plan, we like the location. We're going to be speaking a bit more about the facade of the development. But what price range are we looking at? How much will it cost for an investor to head into the ELTA? You say they're looking at anywhere from a 1-bed to a 3-bed unit.
I think you really addressed the elephant in the room, right? So, you know, we're looking at the pricing, right? But, you know, just to give everybody an anchor about the pricing, right? So typically how we formulate what is going to be like a fair price going into a project is we prescribe a $50 PSF per year. So Clavon is 1 year old, right? So as I was saying just now, Clavon is selling about 2001, right? So estimate 2002 PSF. So when ELTA is about the TOP, it would be 2029. So it's a 5-year gap. So if you translate that to, you know, 2002 plus another 250 for 5 years times 50, so that price range that ELTA is expected to launch will be between like 2,450 to 2,005. That will be roughly pretty much a fair price.
And if we take another point of reference as well, so just within the Clementi region, just a little bit further down the road, we have projects launched that we previously covered. Projects like Nava Grove, projects like Pine Tree Hill. Attributes-wise, those are slightly different because the ELTA is a little bit closer to Clementi Central. It is of a walking distance, though somewhat a bit further, to Clementi MRT. But those projects were already launching at an average of about 2,004 to potentially 2,450 PSF. So I think for the ELTA, it should come as no surprise if it's launching at about 2,400 PSF. Naturally, disclaimer, this is again based on our own opinions. These are not officially released prices from the developers, but we do think that these estimates will not fall too far from the actual launch price.
Maybe we can pull up the price matrix chart just to give the audience a sense of what is the quantum like, right? Because we feel that there's certain price points and quantum points that are really very attractive to the incoming investor, right? All right. Okay. So based on that price point, right, as you can see, we're looking at a 2-bed, right, 2-bath that is, you know, averaging out about 1.7x million. That's like the sweet spot. Why do we say that's the sweet spot? Because at the time of recording, right, Ori sold an average of 2007 PSF, and their 2-bedders, 2+ study, are all completely sold, right? So obviously there's really a lot of investor demand in this space. They see, they value a good product, they value the potential for capital appreciation, and this quantum fits nicely in most of their budgets.
So I'll just go on here and just kind of give a verdict in my own opinion. In my opinion, I think for the investor profile, if you're looking at the typical 2-bedroom unit at the ELTA, if you're getting somewhere within the price point of 2,400 PSF, I think it's a good buy. Anything below, I think it's a must buy from an investor standpoint. Simply because the market has shown time and time again, especially in the last 6 months, that this is the price point reflected, this is the new price point in the RCR and OCR region. So there are demand for this price point for a 2-bed unit within this region. ELTA is no exception. I don't think particularly that the ELTA is going to be launched too expensive. So 2004, maybe up potentially up to 2005 would be a must buy, in my opinion, for the investor profile for 2-bed unit at the ELTA.
Right. So I think it's time to explore another profile. Okay, and spin the wheel again. Let's go back to the wheel. Right. Let's go. Wow. We went from the investor right from one end of the spectrum to a 3-gen family.
Okay, so
Right.
let me preface this, right? 3-gen family, for everyone's information, we are typically thinking of a 3-generational family, right? So a typical setup with your grandparents, your parents, and your children. So probably the two working adults are the parents in this case. Typically, we are dealing with a family unit of maybe about 5 to 6, potentially 7, if you include a helper in today's Singapore family nucleus. So this 3-gen family ideally needs to have like a 4-bedroom. I think a 3-bedroom will be quite hard pressed unless the children are very, very young. But we typically want to look at a 4-bed or a 5-bed unit at the ELTA for a 3-gen family.
Let's see a bit of the floor plans to see how it fits into the. So as the audience, you all will remember, we introduced you to 3 very interesting English words. 1 beta is called executive, 2 beta is called essential, 3 beta is called elegant. Let's talk about exclusive, right? So pun intended, what's exclusive about a 4 beta, right, in this space is you can see that the developer has this multi-gen family view in their thinking, right? In a sense that they had a junior master, which is typically meant for the older folks, right? Because it comes with an attached bath, right? So I think that the layout, right, nothing to complain about. You are looking at a very efficient layout, right? And for some of you who are familiar with like post-harmonization project, the aircon latch doesn't count, right? The RC latch has not been part of the strata area, so that's not part of it. Why I say that this is really very efficient is because you can see that although it has a home shelter, right, but it's nicely put in on one side that can also serve out as a helper's restroom, right? And then at the same time, right, there's a wet and dry kitchen. There's different, I would say different areas that the family can enjoy, right? So really nothing much to complain, right? So Hector, what's your opinion on this?
I like the size, right? So at 1,313 square feet, I think it's a very good, comfortable size for a 3-gen family. If I were to really nitpick, however, I'm a little bit surprised that the developer at the 4-bedroom units do not have a layout that has the junior master on the other side of the unit. So in this particular model, all the bedrooms are located towards the right side of the unit, tucked away. Some families may think that they are kind of overpaying a little bit because then there's a very long corridor leading to the bedroom, which results in lesser usable space. So to me, I feel like the living room and the dining area is sort of that very narrow space, just to keep the quantum at a more palatable level. But the kitchen is definitely something that is very expected at the 4-bedroom. So no surprises there, just a little bit surprised that we don't have a layout with the junior master on the other end of the unit, which would then kind of increase that privacy. And this comes into play, especially if you're thinking about potentially living with your in-laws or grandparents. They might want that little extra cozy corner on the other end of the unit just to be away from the bustle and all the busy part of the daily life.
I actually got a solution to Hector's problem. It's called the Exquisite 5 beta, right? Okay, let's look at the Exquisite 5 beta, right? So the Exquisite 5 beta, I think maybe the developer has this in mind. What's so exquisite about this 5 beta? It has the junior master that's tucked in one corner. As Hector mentioned, it's important to sometimes have a junior master tucked in the other corner because you never know whether your old folks they like to play mahjong, they want to have they have their own things, that at least the other side of the house can be quiet, especially if you have kids. Or you don't need to have old folks. I know friends, sometimes on Saturday evenings it's like they have hosting, so that living and the dining area can be for the hosting, and then the kids can sleep in the junior master too, right? So I kind of quite like the 5 beta layout, although I have a small gripe on this. Okay, then
the private lift.
Yeah, the private lifts. I'm a personal lover of 5-bedder with private lifts, right? Because I feel that when people buy into a 5-bedder, it's a bit of a bragging right, right? Because in a way you're staying in the biggest unit size, right? So it almost feels like I almost feel that the developer forgot the private lift, right? Because like you can see Ori with the 5-bedder as private lift. Of course, we know there are other projects without private lift, right? But I don't think it's a too big of an issue, right? It's just a personal preference.
So, Clive, if we think about the pricing, I think the 4-bedroom, I want to be fair to the developers as well. I do think that the 4-bedroom is packed at about 1,300 square feet, simply because it's trying to keep that quantum manageable so that families can potentially get into the unit and there could be a good pathway for living as well as capital appreciation. 5-bedroom, in my opinion, the jump will be a little bit drastic because we are talking about more than 400 square feet difference from the 4-bedroom premium unit that we saw earlier versus this exquisite 5-bedroom unit. So yes, the 5-bedroom is more luxurious, it's bigger, it's got a slightly more horizontal orientation when it comes to the living and dining area. But again, entry price is important into the project. So I do think that for young families on their journey throughout their life, when it comes to property, there has to be a little bit more consideration on the quantum perspective. So I do think that the 4-bed might garner a bit more attention, simply because we are talking easily about $1 million plus difference from a 4-bed unit to a 5-bed unit. So that difference can be quite sizable.
We can actually compare the price points later, right? Because this is really an interesting discussion on the stretch a bit. But I'm just looking at the 5-bedder, right? What caught my eye is that really there's a lot of toilets in this house, right?
Yes.
So if the audience, you guys would like really count, right? So easily I'm looking at 6 different toilet bowls, right? So I'm just wondering, right? Is that a bit too much toilet in this house? Right, so you got maybe a powder room just for the guests. So this is a house mainly for people who want to do hosting, their friends coming over for games and food. You know, maybe the guests will feel like it's more comfortable using the powder room, right? Toilet. Then of course the junior master one is meant for the old folks or whoever who's staying there. Then junior master 2 toilet. Then there's also another WC that's probably for the helper. So
Yeah, but Clive, can there ever be an argument for too many toilets in a 5-bedroom unit? We talked about family sizes of 6 to 7 people, right?
There might be people who need the toilet at the same time, right?
Right in the morning, like you've
Then
got
you're
kids, Clive,
looking
you tell
at
me.
6 different toilets. So I suppose it's hard to find a toilet queue. And what I like about this unit really they're the Jack and Jill bath. Right. So
Between the 2 bedrooms.
Yeah,
right?
so the fact that because when especially for younger kids, they want to be able to see that hey, actually we are kind of staying together in the same room, but having a bit of the privacy.
Coming from a parent with 2 kids, so I can understand that particular
Great.
idea behind it. But since we touched a little bit about family living, I also want to stress that for the ELTA, what I really liked about the project, because I visited the show flat. We had a sneak preview last week. It was a very memorable afternoon during the sneak preview. I think the ELTA comes across as a project that's very well thought out. I really feel like there are a lot of good design elements in the project. One in particular is the facing of the building. One of the objections or one of the concerns that a lot of clients bring out about the ELTA is with regards to the fact that it's clamped or flanked between the Clavon and Clementi canopy, or Clement canopy, sorry. And I think the developers have really worked with the architects and the designers to make sure that they orientate in the building in such a way where all units have a very good facing. What I'm showing on screen right now is the estimated viewing angle of each block from the site itself. And you can see that they've really thought through about the facing of the units. You have units that are potentially facing between the points of the Clavon, between the buildings of Clement Canopy. So you get an unobstructed view into some of the surroundings. You have your landed enclave if you're more in the north orientation. But even for the units which are supposedly facing the AYE, that's going to be a very unobstructed view far south of Singapore. And I think that's part of the design philosophy to make sure that they're providing this kind of value, because a lot of buyers in the markets today are very concerned with whether their unit spacing is obstructed. And I think for the ELTA, I can confidently say there is almost no obstructed view in any of the stacks, which is very, very rare. And another thing that strikes me about the development is the way they have layered the facilities. So the whole ELTA development is on slightly elevated ground. Facilities are not just ground facilities in most of the developments. We are actually working with 3 different levels of facilities at the ELTA. And one of the key selling points is that a lot of the facilities, such as your barbecue pavilion, your resting pavilion, your children's playground, they are all going to be connected using this concept of treetop living, where we are literally walking on wooden bridges built on stilts, accessing different parts of the facilities, resulting in multiple layers linking the ground facilities to those at the treetop level. So I don't know about you, Clive, but I've gone for some holidays, mangrove swamp trips, treetop animal sightings. A lot of these treetop experiences are very nice because you literally feel like you're kind of like a squirrel. You're walking on the level of the treetop, viewing the sky, enjoying the air, and you can see what's happening below. So I think that ELTA really embodies this particular design philosophy, and it'll be great for family living, great for hosting friends and relatives.
I think last but not least, design elements aside, I think audience would be keen to, of course, conclude with understanding how would the price point be like. You know, just now I mentioned about let's pull back the price matrix, right? Just now we understood about like when we talk about the price matrix. I personally feel that the price matrix for the 5-bedder is a bit steep, right? Because it's designed at 1,776 square foot. So if you impute a approximate 2,005 type pricing, you'll be starting 4.4 million. So I feel that this might be a bit of a tough entry point. Because why I say so? Because Ori recently just kind of concluded their launch weekend, right? And it's quite evident that I think the 3.5 million price point is where the resistance starts setting in. And I feel that every area has its own kind of like a resistance point. So I just feel that while the 5-bedder has many of its advantages, it's just that maybe the size is a bit too big compared to the Ori at 1,453, right? So this might be really for families who appreciate the space, at 1,776.
Yeah, I think it's a luxury that some can afford, not all. But again, if you're entering into a 5-bedroom, perhaps give the 4-bedroom a look as well. I think that's what we're trying to drive at as well.
Yes.
For the quantum. So definitely the ELTA is a project that we know will be very, very popular. We know the investor profile, the own stay profiles. These are 2 profiles that fit very nicely into this project. They're very thoughtful design elements that relate to investors and homestayers alike. So I do think that the ELTA is a project that needs to be looked at. It will be launched just right after Chinese New Year. So we're expecting the show flat to be quite busy, starting from 7th February.
Yeah. So I think to conclude, I think the audience know that the market is there, right? So no point waiting, like I was saying, that if let's say you're already preparing for a purchase. So if you need someone to kind of just handhold you through the process, to kind of check your suitability and manage a bit of your risk, you can and both of us will walk you through, right? Like the joke always says, you're getting 2 for the price of 1.
Right.
Yep.
So I think that's a good place to end the episode. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you in the next one.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.